probably one of the things that we haven't talked about is the importance of provider status. I think that's another thing pharmacies should fight for.
Yeah.
And every time I talk about that, they give me the eye roll, like, oh, that's never going to happen, But with that nursing shortage we talked about is happening. The fact that we're going to be flooded in the marketplace with all these seniors, these people that are really going to be truly long-term care patients, but they're just not going to be residing in a nursing facility. The shortage in nurses, the shortage in primary care physicians, it's going to be critical that pharmacists have at least basic level provider status, not just vaccines, but the same thing that they're doing in England, to be able to do, basic sinusitis, UTIs, common colds, birth control, those type of things, because we're so attainable, we're so reachable. And so fighting for that, that's not like a wish list. I think it's going to be essential to United States healthcare.
I agree. Essential to United States healthcare. And I think critical to getting paid for the services that are provided, right? So there's so much within pharmacy today where there's counseling or there's conversations that are provided today, and there's not a method to get that reimbursement or to get paid for the work that's being done. And so it's a critical,
midwives have more prescribing rights than pharmacists do, or something. But that's where the population is going to be at. That's where the United States is going to be at. They're going to be 2 hours away from that hospital or whatever it is. And so what I afraid is going to happen is the population's going to get there. There's going to be needs. There's going to be long waits. There's going to be nursing shortage or primary care shortage. And then something tragic is going to happen. Yeah. And then finally, when there's turmoil, finally Congress is going to like, oh, hey, how can we have prevented this? How can we decrease the lines at the doctor's office? And we see this already happening in England, and that's why they gave those pharmacists, those type of rights.
Well, all the leading indicators are here also, right? If you look at physician burnout, if you look at shortage of nurses, if you look at the aging population, right? We know who takes the medications. Right. The older you get, the more you take.
Yep. And it's going 50% over the next 5-6 years. And so, we're going to be overwhelmed with it, and our system's going to be overwhelmed with it. And then I think the next big thing is defining long-term care patient.
Right.
Independent of their residency. And I think that's what you're talking about earlier of being reimbursed. We should be reimbursed based on the patient's needs, not based on where the patient lives or the patient resides. And I think if they base their payments based off that patient's needs, and we as a long-term care pharmacy or even long-term care home pharmacy, we're servicing those patients and we're meeting those needs and we're providing better outcomes. We're keeping them out of the hospital. We're keeping them out of the nursing home. That's where we should get paid at. So they get into this retail and where they reside, but it really should be based on the patient and what the patient needs, not necessarily where they reside. So I think that's also something big we need to fight and push for.
Yeah, it is. It's really, if you think of, it's this separation or dichotomy between what a hospital pharmacist does and the value that's perceived in that, right, of sort of all of the med rec and all of understanding sort of the complexity of a patient that might be on a lot of meds or dosing those particular meds versus retail pharmacy, where it's often just seen as like the value's the cost of the drug, right? Or the price of the drug. Right. It's not the service that's being provided around it. Right. And that long-term care is somewhere in the middle, right? You have patients that can be as complex as some of those hospital patients. So, you need more than just a dispense in a retail pharmacy, but you're not going to be in a hospital setting, or you're not going to be in a long-term care facility, like a true SNF setting. And so understanding that spectrum, I think, is really important.
Yeah. And this is where pharmacies can then grow into that clinical building, that incident to building, the RPM, and providing those services and those devices and the at-home dispensing devices. And they can grow their revenue in all these different ways, because that's where the population's at. That's where the growth is at. But we could do more than just send them drugs. We can help a lot of their clinical needs.